Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. I'm gonna do the vinyl tag today. I'm a little bit late. I know everybody's been did them about a month ago. I was just kind of dragging ass on it. I'm actually gonna do the metal vinyl tag as well. So I tried not to put much metal into this video. There are a couple of metal albums that I'm going to show just because when it came to that category, that was just the correct album to show or albums to show. Unlike I've seen a couple of the vinyl tags where people didn't even show records for most of the responses. I'm going to show the records and then on all but I believe one of the questions, and I'll get to why on that one. But so the first question was favorite release of 2022. So my two favorite releases are a hard rock and a metal album. And again, I'm gonna do the metal tag, so I decided not to show those. But one of my favorites from this year is the newest from Charlie Crockett, the man from Waco. This one's got an alternate cover on it. It may be an indie record store exclusive. I can't remember, but just a fantastic album. If you're into country and you haven't checked out Charlie Crockett, man, he is just a perfect blend of 50s, 60s style R&B country mixed with some honky tonk. There's definitely he's from East Texas, and there's a lot of that Cajun influence in his music. So you hear a little bit of the swampy Zydeco a little bit, but not really. But you hear the influences in here. He does a fantastic job of just blending multiple styles and just creates a really modern, a really classic sound. But in the modern era, it's something that's really something that's all his own. Definitely check him out, though. Like I said, if you're into country at all, I think you're really going to dig Charlie Crockett, especially if you're like me and you're into classic country. He just kind of hits all the sweet spots. The last band or solo you saw live, I saw the concerts have been coming in groups. I was just talking about this on a live stream last night. I'll go 2 or 3 months where there's not any concerts or shows that I go to, and then all of a sudden, actually, it's been almost 5 months now, and then all of a sudden there will be like 2 months where I go to like 10 shows. For some reason, all the shows I want to see are really grouped together, and the next ones are in June or July. I'm going to see a bunch of shows, but the last band that I saw was Corrosion of Conformity with Pepper Keenan back in the band. It was really cool to see them with Pepper Keenan. My favorite COC stuff is their early thrash stuff, and then that southern metal sound from the Pepper Keenan era. So it was really cool to see them live with him because I didn't get to see him in the 90s when I really got into Pepper Keenan. Next one, let's see. The first a band where their first album was their best. This was a pretty easy one for me. I decided to go with Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures. If you're not familiar with this is is it the 50th anniversary? But this is the anniversary edition they did with the reverse colors. Sounds fantastic. I want to say it's red vinyl. I could be confusing it with the anniversary edition of Closer, though. But sounds fantastic. Just a killer album. My favorite release from them is actually their first EP, which is really a totally different sound than this. But man, just a killer debut album right there. Oh, let's see what's next. A Hat Trick, something that you have on vinyl, CD, and cassette. There's not a lot now. I have gotten rid of most of my cassettes unless it was something special or if it was a demo. There's a couple that I kept just because I love those cassettes and they kind of have a nostalgic thing going for them. So I went ahead and went with Angel Witch because I actually do have all three. So this is the vinyl reissue from maybe 4 or 5 years. No, 2016. So wow. So quite a while ago. But they did a really good job on this. But probably, in my opinion, the third best new wave of British heavy metal album. So Angel Witch. So there's the album. Here, I actually have a couple copies of this. This is the deluxe 2 CD edition that came out a few years ago. This was 2010. Disc 2 is the demos, and then all of the 12 inches, the A and the B sides, which is really cool. And then it's got some BBC tracks as well. So there is the CD. And last but not least, this is the cassette with an alternate cover with an angel witch on the cover. And I thought that was really cool. This just came out within the last few years. Iron Grip does some really cool new wave of traditional metal stuff. They do some really cool demos. So I get an email every month or so with upcoming releases. This had a few extra tracks, so I went ahead and grabbed that as well. So that's the Hat Trick. Let's see. An album that starts and ends with the same letter. I just happen to have this one out because I've been in a ZZ Top mood. But this is a live greatest hits, and it's called Tonight is the Night. Tonight, so it starts and ends with a T. I'm guessing that's what you're going for. Really good live set. Looking forward to seeing them. They're going to be here in June, I believe. It may be the first week of either the first week of June or the first week of July. They're coming through with Leonard Skinner, who I saw a few years ago, and man, they still put on a great show. Let's see. Next up, someone born the same year as you. This was actually really difficult. There are a lot of artists that were born the same year as me, but almost none of them are artists that I'm into, that I have albums from. And actually, this artist is the reason I chose him is because of the kind of the story with him. I actually looked. I used to have their CDs and their albums. I never listened to them. The albums shot up to like $200 a piece, so I went ahead and sold them. It wasn't something I was going to listen to. But it's Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, who died. It's been 2 or 3 years at this point. The reason I chose him, it was either him or Blake Shelton, which I'm not a huge Blake Shelton fan. My daughter's she loves him, so she's got a couple of his albums. So I thought about grabbing one of hers, but I went with Chester Bennington. So we actually grew up in the same area in Phoenix. I was actually born in Tucson. He was born in Phoenix, but so we were part of the same music scene in the mid 90s. This is long before Linkin Park blew up. This is like 93, 94, 95 time frame. I can't remember the name of his band. He was in an alternative band though. I didn't know who he was. Chester Bennington meant nothing to anybody back then. But I remember the band from the local scene. I may have seen them. I don't know. I know we didn't play with them. My band never played with them. It was something gray. I can't remember something gray. Regardless, him and his crew were part of the same music scene in Phoenix. My band was more heavy metal. Probably with a little alternative edge to it, just because that was the time. And regardless, I never met him at that point, or I don't remember meeting him. However, when I got out of the Navy, so when I moved back to Phoenix in 2005, he lived in the same neighborhood that I did. And when I say the same neighborhood, so I lived in a big housing development called Power Ranch. And the houses were anywhere from like $200,000 all the way up to $1 or $2 million. He lived in the more expensive side of the community, and I lived in the smaller community. It was a huge community. The Power Ranch used to be one of the biggest ranches in the country. And what happened is when the father died, he's like the third or fourth generation. When he died, his kids hadn't wanted nothing to do with it, so they sold the land. It became a huge housing development with golf courses and clubhouses, all this ridiculous stuff that we never used. However, he lived in that same housing community as me. And again, I never met him, but like I would walk into, like, I remember taking my wife to Cold Stone Creamery, and people were showing pictures that they just took with him like 20 minutes earlier. So I kept missing him. And like every restaurant you went to, every place you went to, they had pictures. I knew guys at the gym who had worked out with him and stuff. And it was just one of those things where I never crossed paths with him, but we were always in the same vicinity, basically our whole lives. I mean, we grew up in the same area of Phoenix too. So anyway, so I decided to choose him. Next up, most listened to album of 2022. That one is pretty easy. It's going to be Rastaman Vibration from Bob Marley and the Wailers. I bought this one actually was it last year when these came out? It might have been 2020 when these reissues came out. But when the UHQR is the one I listened to the most. I just didn't feel like pulling it out. I played it a lot. I probably listened to this 30 or 40 times. I listened to it, each copy, this copy and the UHQR 4 or 5 times before I did my comparison video, just to kind of get a feel for the two. So I listened to this a lot, and I love this album. I'm going to actually, so they just announced the Exodus UHQR, which it took me 40 minutes of refreshing, but I finally was able to order a copy. But I love Bob Marley, and that UHQR is by far the best thing that Analog Productions has released, and the UHQR line, quality-wise, it just sounds amazing. All right, the band that I've listened to, or the most listened to artist of 2022, is actually artist that didn't have anything come out in 2022. It was Riot. So about 2 months ago, we did a live stream with I don't remember whose live stream it was. There were a few where Riot came up. But one of the VC members, Malia, brought up Riot, and me and John got into a whole discussion about it. And then we got into a discussion about alternate covers, and I pulled out my stack of Riot LPs to show a couple different covers from a few albums that had multiple covers. And it turned into a thing where I ended up listening to Riot pretty much nonstop for about 2 weeks. I listened to my entire collection. I have all of their albums but one. They all got listened to, and it was a lot of fun. So they're easily the band that I listened to the most. And it was more than, I say 2 weeks, where that was pretty much all I was listening to for 2 weeks. But I've still been pulling out their albums quite a bit lately. Just been on a really big Riot kick. So next up, number 9, an Australian artist or band. I could have gone a couple different ways. I was going to go Radio Birdman. I can't find my copy of that album, though. It's around here somewhere. So I decided to go with The Church. This is the Starfish. This is the Intervention Records pressing that came out a few years ago. This thing sounds so good. This is kind of the end of The Church for me. I know that they were still making, I believe they might still be making albums. I don't know. I know they were as of a few years ago. But my favorites are the early Church. My favorite album, there's a Seance. I don't have that one on vinyl, though. I still have my original cassette. I believe it's an Australian cassette, too. I need to get those on vinyl, though. But just a fantastic band. Highly recommend checking them out if you haven't. If you're into The Cure, any of the goth stuff, any of the... their early stuff is just so good. But all the way through here, this was their big hit. This is by far their best-selling album. I wasn't going to buy this, actually. It was like $50. And my record store ended up having a sale, and I got it for like $39.99. So I went ahead and went with it. And it was worth every penny. It sounds fantastic. Intervention Records has just been doing a fantastic job on everything I've bought from them has been phenomenal. Actually, I'm going to show... No, actually, that one's not Intervention. So I won't even go that way. A record people will be surprised that you bought. So I'm a metal guy. I like metal, country, and then just kind of a mix of other stuff. But those are the main things I listen to. I've actually liked a lot of the stuff that she's put out, especially the more experimental stuff that she was doing. With I think it was her third adult album, or her third album as an adult. I can't remember. It hasn't been pressed to vinyl. Regardless, I really liked everything I heard all over the YouTubes and whatnot. And so I ended up buying this one. But this is Plastic Hearts from Miley Cyrus. She was really going for like an 80s Joan Jett thing here. And she just did a fantastic job with it. I've heard some of the stuff from her new album. It doesn't hit me the same way. But this album, I mean, she did Night Crawling with Billy Idol, which was fantastic. She actually did a song called Bad Karma with Joan Jett on it. But man, this was just a great album, and definitely worth checking out. The song Midnight Sky was really killer, but I really dug this. So I went ahead and grabbed it. Next up, an artist band you are complete on. There's quite a few bands that I have all of their albums. However, a lot of the bands with a lot of, like the Judas Priest, I have all of their albums, but I don't have all their singles. I don't have all their comps. So I wanted to choose a band that I have everything that's been released from. So I went with Ashbury, which is one of my favorite bands. They are an Arizona band. This album is the best 70s album that came out in the 80s. This album is so good. It's called Endless Skies. If you haven't grabbed it, there's represses out there. This was the repress from about... this was Vintage Records. This is Rockadrome that did this one maybe 10 years ago or so. They've done a couple represses since. This album is a 12 out of 10. It's so good. Take the best parts of like Wishbone Ash, Blue Oyster Cult, Uriah Heep, and this is what you get. It's amazing. Highly recommend checking this one out. And then they got back together a couple decades later. I believe this one was 2010. This one is not as good. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I still really dig it. Some of the songs are really good, and then some of the songs are just okay. You can tell they were just kind of getting back together, getting in the groove of writing again. But this is something funny going on. I do like the artwork with the cactus in the background. Just kind of a throwback to Arizona. Pretty cool. Still worth having. This is my least favorite of their albums, but this is one that I still really dig. And then their newest album, this was from 2 or 3 years ago. Let's see what year this one was. 2018. And this, I believe this made my top 5 albums for 2018. It might have been top 2 or 3. I can't remember. But I know it was in the top 5. It's just a straight ass kicker. This is Eye of the Stygian Witches. Just a killer album. So that's their 3 albums. They had one other release that I just finally got about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Where is it? And it is this. This is Out of the Blue. This was a single that they did. They did a tour in Europe. They did some shows in Europe. And this could only be bought at the shows. And they only did 100 of them. And it took me a while to find one, but I finally found a copy for a decent price. I think I paid $25 for it. But it's, again, this is one of my favorite bands. It's a 3-song. It's only 3 songs, but I had to have it. Number 98 of 100, but Out of the Blue on blue cassette. So that's everything that they've released, at least as far as Discogs shows. If somebody knows of anything else, let me know, because I'll definitely track it down. Next up, a great run of 3 albums. I could have done 10 metal bands. Man, I could have done Bowie. I could have done Bob Marley. There's 100 bands that I love that had a run of 3 albums. I decided to go with this one though. I really got into a T-Rex thing about 2 years ago. It was all albums I already liked, but I just got into this T-Rex thing, and I played these 3 albums just over and over again. But we got the Slider, just some amazing glam albums. We got I believe the next one, or did I do it backwards? I can't remember what order. I think Tanks was the last. I think it doesn't say the year for this one, but I believe Slider was first, but I could be wrong. And then we've got Electric Warrior, which I could live without ever hearing Bang a Gong again, but this whole album is absolutely fantastic. And then we've got Tanks. I don't like pretty much anything that they released before this. I don't like pretty much anything they released after these. But these 3 albums were absolutely perfect. All the stuff before it, when they were Tyrannosaurus Rex, I've bought like 3 or 4 of them on CDs. I can't get into any of it. I'm just not a fan of the pre-glam stuff. But these 3 were perfect glam albums. And then he got like a little more experimental after this. And there's some songs that I like, but as a whole, I'm just not a fan of the stuff that came out after those 3 albums. Next up, show your favorite 80s soundtrack. This one was a simple one. Actually, it wasn't so simple because I love the Suburbia soundtrack. I love the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack. But the one that always hits a spot for me and has always been a favorite. My wife hates this movie because back when we were dating, I watched it so much. It was one of those things when it came out on DVD, I bought it and played it too much. When it came out on Blu-ray, I bought it and I played it too much. And now my wife doesn't care if she ever sees or hears it again. But it's Prince and the Revolution, Purple Rain. One of the greatest soundtracks / albums of all time. I love everything on here. It's just a perfect album. And it's funny, Prince has a lot of songs that I like. There are no other albums where I absolutely love the album. There's songs I like here and there. This one was a perfect album for me. Not only do I still love it, there's a lot of nostalgia in it too. I remember when Doves Cry, I remember hearing it for the first time at a skating rink in Tucson. And they had, I don't know if you guys remember them, they had the big widescreen and had the little fold out with the lamps that reflected it. Anyway, that's what big screens were back then. They weren't very good, but they would. The first time I saw it was at the rink. They were doing the video. It was killer. But Purple Rain and When Doves Cry, both of them I heard the first time in the roller rinks, which I pretty much lived in what was that, 84 when that came out. Next up, we lost them in 2022. I decided to go with Rick Parnell. Most of you probably don't know who that is. Some of you hard rock and metal heads probably do. So Rick Parnell was the drummer for Atomic Rooster. He got a little more famous when he played Mick, the drummer from Spinal Tap. He actually toured with the guys from Spinal Tap as well. But we lost him in 2022. I don't know that we've heard... I think I looked online. I couldn't see how he actually died. Let's see if it... I just happen to have it open, so... okay. Effects of cancer. So he was almost 87 years old. So, man, lived a pretty good life. But he played in 2 or 3 of the Atomic Rooster albums, including this one. Made in England. And Rick Parnell is this wonderful gentleman right there. Again, also in Spinal Tap. I didn't want to do somebody more obvious. I wanted to a little different than what everybody else was showing. Next up, a disappointing purchase in 2022. If you watch my review video, I gave it good reviews, but if you go back and watch that video, I say that I only listened to the first disc so far. I was having basically I listened to the first LP, and then I cleaned it. And when I went to listen to the second LP, my left channel went out on my receiver. And I ended up having to send the receiver in, and it took a month and a half for it to come back before I finally got to listen to the second disc. And it's full of pops and sounds like shit. So I got a hold of Analog Productions. They replaced it with a copy that doesn't sound as bad, but it still doesn't sound great. And I will probably never listen to this again. If I could have sent this back and got my money back, I would have. Unfortunately, all they would do is replace it with... And I went through the same thing with the 33 RPM copy of this, where they replaced it 3 or 4 times. I got it to where it was the quietest and was happy. We'll see that Bob Marley that came out, that Awesome Vibration, is the only UHQR where it lives up to the UHQR hype with sound quality. It's dead quiet. Hopefully Exodus is the same way. but kind of blue. This is a 45 RPM. Sound wise, it sounds phenomenal. The mastering is beautiful. The noise floor is great. But just like all the UHQRs prior to this one, it's a noisy pressing, which is ridiculous for the price that you're paying for these. That they didn't have that worked out when they started selling these things. But it is what it is. So that's my disappointing purchase for 2022. Non-vinyl purchase, CD, book, etc. I decided to go with a CD. I thought about doing a book, but none of them that I bought in 2022 were actually from 2022. So I went with this. This isn't from 2022 either, but man, I played this a lot. And actually, the follow-on band is also in my CD player right now in my truck, and I've been listening to it a lot. I've been on a big Graham Parsons kick for like the last 3 years or so. I don't go a week or two without listening to some Graham Parsons. And a big part of that is, of course, Sweethearts of the Rodeo from the Byrds. This is the deluxe edition that came out in 2000. When does it say? Oh, wow, 2003. They did a fantastic job with the remastering on this, and the extra stuff is phenomenal. So it's got the original LP, and then another, let's see, 8 tracks of additional master takes. Then on disc 2, you've got a few tracks from the International Submarine Band, which was Graham Parsons' band before he joined the Byrds. And then demos, outtakes, and rehearsal versions, and some of those are fantastic. This thing is 10 out of 10. If you run across this, grab it. I bought this one for like $15. Maybe it was a little less. But I bought it used. If you can find it for a good price, 100% worth grabbing. And then in the car right now, I've been listening to, they just remastered a few years ago all of the Flying Burrito Brothers stuff from the original masters. And they put out a 2 CD set that is everything that Graham Parsons sang with them. And there were like 6 or 7 tracks that had never been released. So that's been in my truck for quite a while. For at least 2 weeks, I've been listening to that exclusively. All right, next up, a Grail you found. I did a video on this. I was super stoked about this. I spent years trying to make deals with people to get this record. This was the only Judas Priest that I was missing of their primary releases. They have comps and stuff that I don't have on vinyl that I'll eventually get around to grabbing. But this was my number one Grail. Now my number one Grail is Mad Season. I'm working on that one too. But Judas Priest 98 Live Meltdown. This is a 2 LP live set from what the hell is his name? Ripper Owens. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. But from Ripper Owens, and this is a 10 out of 10. If you guys haven't heard this is my favorite live Judas Priest album, which says a lot because I love Judas Priest. It's one of my all-time favorite bands. Ripper is fantastic. He hits all the high points on this album. Is that the last one? No. Let's think. I got a few more. Space Theme album sleeve or song. The first one that came to mind. This is actually a 2 LP comp from the mid 70s of UFO 1 and UFO 2. And you've got the song Unidentified Flying Objects. So you've got the band theme. It's space rock. You got the song. So I think this one hits all the spots. This is a German comp. It's been hard. They just reissued them. But original pressings are pretty hard to find, and they're getting expensive in good condition. You can usually find this for a relatively good price. There's a little ring wear on this copy that I got, but I paid like $25 for this, and the vinyl is near mint, and it sounds fantastic. So if you want to check out the first couple UFOs before they became a hard rock band, highly recommend grabbing that comp right there. And let's see, show some VCLT. So I'm going to show one that I just got 2 days ago because it's awesome. But this is just one I happen to have here. I have a bunch of singles sitting right here, including one that brother Scott Waters sent to me. And this is the Break the Chains single from Raven on Neat. So you can see the nice Neat label there. And then here's the picture sleeve. Raven is one of my favorite bands as well as his. He actually came out last year. I'm sorry, a little over a year ago. And we went and saw Raven together. And then I just got this one a couple days ago. This isn't from 2022, but I thought I'd show this off too. Brother John up in Canada, SMF Captain Howdy. I don't know. I think his channel name is like Van Life. Now I could be wrong, but he's doing like Jeep Life, Van Life, Jeep Life. He's into off-roading and all that stuff with Jeeps, but he was nice enough to send this Paul Stanley signed copy. The only Kiss that I'm missing now of the original members is Gene. I have stuff from everybody else. I've got Vinnie Vincent. I've got Bruce Kulick. I've got Eric Singer. Eric Carr would be some Eric Carr would be nice to find too. But really happy to have this one. I'm going to be doing a room tour in the next month or so because like I said in a previous video, I've redone everything. But so you'll see this one on the wall by the time I do that room tour. And last but not least, show an album from 1973. Oh, you know what? When I said I don't think I said what year I was born in. So question number 6, someone born the same year as you. I said it was Chester Bennington. I was born in 76. So that was the year that myself and Chester Bennington were born. Show an album released in 1973. That one was real easy for me. Blue Oyster Cult was the first thing that popped into my mind. And Tyranny and Mutation is just a 10 out of 10 album. This is the Speaker Corner. I have an original of this, but the Speaker Corners reissues are fantastic. When I bought this, you could buy them for like $34. I think the price has gone up, but they've done 2 or 3 of the Blue Oyster Cult albums, and they're all fantastic. Highly recommend those as well. But that's it, guys. I hope everybody's doing good. I will be doing in the next few days the metal vinyl tag as well. Hopefully somebody does a country vinyl tag. Somebody did one a few years ago, and I wanted to do it, but my collection was in just such disarray that I couldn't find the records that I wanted to show. So, but that's pretty much it, guys. I hope everybody's good. Keep an eye out. I'm gonna try to start doing live streams on Monday night. I did a test stream, and everybody seemed really happy with it. So we're definitely going to do that again, where we're going to play some metal, get some discussion going. I hope everybody's good. I will see you soon. Love you guys.